Vinnie Mirchandani, welcome to the analyst chat here, response to the keynote. Vinnie, I would say you need no introduction, but I'm legally bound to give you an introduction. So I'm going to give you an introduction. Vinnie has worked as an analyst, I don't know, actually, I should tell this little side story. When I was working at CIO Magazine back in the mid-2000s, and I got handed the SAP sheet.
Tom, are you going to say how old I am?
No, I'm not going to say how old you are. Back in 2000, I was CIO. I was fresh. I did not know ERP from, a hole in the wall. And Chris Koch, who was then at SAP, actually he's at SAP now, was at CIO, said, just give this guy, Vinnie Mirchandani, a call. And I said, okay, I'll give him a call. And Vinnie was gracious with his time, having worked in the industry for so long as an analyst, as a consultant, and now as kind of his own industry analyst. So Vinnie, welcome, and appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much for having me, Tom. So, one of the nice things in the last couple of months is people have been doing all kinds of backgrounds, right? So my wife has given me 4 different backgrounds. This library, which is hers, but I can use it. There's a Buddhist section in the house. There's an Egyptian section. And then there is one overlooking our canal in the backyard. I was going to do this from the canal because, we were supposed to be in Florida this week.
That is true.
And then I realized some of you had snow this week. And I said, maybe I won't piss them off. So I'm doing it for the right now.
That probably was a good idea.
But I don't have a jacket on. So I'm going to bring the Florida vibe here.
That's all right. You're in Florida. You'll be too warm. So let's dive right in here. I mean, lots of things. I know you've been talking to a lot of CIOs recently in a variety of industries, and you've heard some really interesting stories about how people, what you're calling acrobatics. I don't know if you came up with that, but it's really quite apt. Acrobatics that these teams are doing right now. What are the common themes that you're hearing from these CIOs that you're talking to?
So Tom, let me give you some context. People know me as the author of SAP Nation, but I've written several books on innovation. That's actually my passion. So in January, I started to see heroics, acrobatics in Asia around COVID-19. Then I moved to Europe, and then for the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it's been in the US, right? So it's been auto companies jumping in to make ventilators, distilleries starting to make hand sanitizers, pop-up hospitals, FDA accelerating clinical trials, last mile logistics. So if you ask me for a common thread, I think it's agility trumps perfect. So every industry, banks are making emergency loans. I talked to the ex-CTO of BP yesterday. That industry seems dead, but under the surface, you should see all the innovation and changes that are going on. I'm going to talk to the CIO of Delta Airlines next week. And
that'd be interesting.
Trust me, that industry has to win back the trust of passengers, right? They're not sitting around. They're thinking about a lot of safety, hygiene, making us comfortable to get back on the plane. So every industry is going through a lot of change. And, one thing that kind of prompted me to do these Zoom interviews was, I said I could write a book about this, but that'll take months to come out. In the spirit of what all these companies are doing, I said, let me get it out as soon as possible. And the other thing that encouraged me was 2 weeks ago, Warren Buffett did his annual Berkshire annual meeting on the web. And he's 89, and he said, I don't know if he was kidding, but he said, it's the first time I'm using slides. And then he said, my long-term partner, Charlie Munger, who's 96, has become a Zoom fanatic. So I said, if these old farts can do it, we can certainly do it. So I've learned a lot from a lot of different industries about what I'm calling acrobatics, because there is no training for this period. But they're doing everything possible to pivot, to adapt to changes, face up to new entrants in their markets, and so on. So acrobatics is appropriate in my mind.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's very apt. Is there a a story you've heard that stuck out with you that just is like, wow, that's true innovation, or that's a real amazing story of someone just changing their business model or something? Anything stuck out with you?
Yeah, VC Ray Lane told me about one of his portfolio companies, a company called Farmer's Fridge. So their model is to sell salads and fresh food in little plastic mason jars through kiosks in corporate areas and airports and so on. Well, that market dried up almost overnight. Right. So the CEO could have laid off 80% of his employees. Instead, he overnight pivoted and started selling them to hospitals and schools that were open, right? So just like that. President Trump did one of these, right? Telemedicine has been around for a long time. He basically changed HIPAA to accept it. Medicare, you will accept it. Just like that, telemedicine's taken off. So, how long do we have? I could go on and on and on about some of the changes I'm seeing in every industry. It's actually, in all the doom and gloom, as an innovation author, this is just amazing time to be alive.
It's a great point. There is a lot of amazing things happening. So maybe we'll bring the focus back in on SAP a little bit. How do you think customers will start, or already are, approaching dealings with SAP? When they're starting to consider cloud versus on-premise, vertical, horizontal functionality, all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you see kind of happening?
So not just SAP, I think the whole enterprise space is at a very critical point. So one of SAP's competitors last week, I listened to one of their events, and it was not till minute 50 of the keynote that they talked about one of their hospital systems has developed a COVID mobile app. What a waste. They could have started off the presentation with that. They had a retailer who has shut down all the stores. They could have been all over the supply chain and logistics of that retailer. Didn't present that. They had a food chain. They could have focused on the kitchen hygiene. They could have focused on curbside pickup and all that. Missed it. So I'm a little worried that all the enterprise vendors are behaving like it's business as usual, and they're starting to keep trying to sell ERP, CRM, etc. When in fact it's these acrobatics that are opening up brand new small application opportunities. Now, specific to SAP, I heard Christian today. I heard John talk about some of the changes. I think they have probably a better chance to, because they are in every single vertical. I talked to Peter Meyer like 3 weeks ago, and as I was telling him about some of these acrobatics, he was like playing back to me some of those things they have been noticing, right, in B2C markets and B2B markets. So, I think they have an opportunity to not just sell what they have in the bag, but actually evolve further. Will they do it? That's the problem with big technology sales. It's tough to turn the ship around, right? It's the same thing with their partners. It's very tough to turn the ship around. And I can tell you, some vendors are counting on this being a bungee. Oh, we'll rebound, we'll go back to business as usual. I don't know about that. I'm hearing from too many people. I hope we don't go back to business as usual. So,
I think that's changed. We're seeing in our, some of the pulse of the ASUG member, our customer research, is that people, even besides working from home, right? Besides where you're going to work, I think the old normal is not coming back anytime soon. And I think that's going to impact a lot of vendors.
I think somebody said, he says, typically every shock like this, we go back to 80% of what was before. He said this time we'll probably only go back to 50%. And even that 50% is going to shake up industries and everything, right? So it's going to change our way of life. I asked somebody the other day who's a road warrior like me, I said, how long has it been since you've been grounded? And in my case, it's 1983. I don't think I've ever not been on a plane for 30 plus years. So, I'm changing. Industries are changing. SAP will have to change. I just, a couple of positives for SAP is they have just about every industry in their customer base. They have just about every major global market in their customer base. And so if they listen to their customers and see all the, I mean, you have to be blind to not see all these changes. And I guess I'm a little more optimistic about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some room to be hopeful here. I just want to let people know we do have the chat. We got some questions from the last one, so the chat is open. I can actually see this and manage it from my broadcast studio here. One of the things you meant we didn't talk about, but you alluded to, were the systems integrators and the changing of how that work gets done on-site versus off-site. Do you foresee big change there? Are they already happening? I mean, what do you see there?
It's already happening. I mean, even if they don't want to change their travel-heavy model, they're not being allowed to go into facilities, right? So,
right.
One of the big integrators, the CEO, came out and said, even when we get back to normal, I don't see 25% of my staff going to any of our offices. So I think that is a big sea change. In 1996 or 97, I was at Gartner, and I pointed out that systems integrator expenses, travel expenses, was adding another 25% in addition to their already expensive fees. And I made the comment, which was kind of snarky, that your consultant expenses will exceed the cost of your software, right? So for 25 years, it hasn't changed. I keep telling them, guys, you don't need to travel so much. Suddenly now that excuse has gone away, right? So when that changes, I think you're going to see customers, it's not all the integrators to blame. Customers like to feel and touch the consultant, and so they've often had clauses that say you will work from our side. They'll have to be flexible. But in addition, I think customers should start to push into, okay, you move to this virtualized model. Why aren't we seeing more shared services? Why are we having a dedicated set of data conversion experts in our project? Why are we seeing dedicated training experts? Why don't we have that as a shared service? So that's another change that's coming. The third one is, why aren't we seeing more automation? And I think the last two that I mentioned, travel, I think they'll have to adjust to. The other two, I'm still seeing resistance. But, if customers push them, they may not have much opportunity to resist this time. Right. So I think a lot of changes coming there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are right for some big changes there. Are there any impediments that you see to not have that happen, to not have that change happen? Is there too much money? Is there too much, hey, this is the way we've always done it? That will inhibit that?
Well, it's always been people dependent, right? So you could always take what's in people's heads and codify it, right? But they've always been afraid to make that pivot. Software vendors don't like too much services. Service vendors are not very comfortable with a IP-centric model. Partly because customers don't pay them enough for the IP. They expect it to free. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they've resisted it. So I could see that transition requiring a meeting of the minds between integrators saying, yes, okay, I will reduce my people footprint, but I expect to be paid more for my shared services. I expect to be paid more for my IP. So, that transition, there'll be friction between both integrators and buyers, and honestly, between them and the software vendors. When they move into IP, makes SAP nervous. Maybe we should be doing that. Why are you doing that, right? So you can't all blame it on the integrators, but there's a lot of hurdles to flipping that switch.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to happen first. Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and I know you're probably seeing it too, is that it seems like, you use the word acrobatics, but the need for agility and things happening fast, especially in IT, decisions happening fast. I actually saw in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, it was the CIO of Guardian Life who said, decisions are being made so much quicker now, right, for IT. Is that sustainable, do you think, for modern day IT departments and their companies? Can this new normal, if we want to call it that, and the agility and flexibility and speed, is that sustainable?
I think is sustainable if they can move away, and this is going to be controversial, if they can move away from vendors. We have made IT a little too outsourced to application vendors, outsourced to outsourcers, outsourced to hardware vendors, and so on. I mean, there is, when I started my career, 50% of IT spend was on internal staff. Now it's probably 10%. So that has made IT departments a lot less agile. So I think if you can move back to a little more custom development, a lot more internal architects, and a lot more internal staff, that agility can come back. But if they're going to be dependent on 90% vendor spend, then a CIO can't really push those vendors quick enough. That's one thing. And if you are going to shift that budget, bring in a lot more agile, a lot more smaller specialist vendors in the mix, which again, then procurement people don't like that. They like to have vendor consolidation. So there's friction to be removed on the corporate side to bring that agility in. But, honestly, it's not just because the CEO says it. It's because now you're seeing new entrants enter your market that you never thought possible. I mean, I look at healthcare. It's 1/5 of the U.S. GDP. I mean, everybody is salivating on entering that market, either because they've seen the inefficiencies in the last 2 months, or because they've seen the impact on the cost of their organization, on the the human resources in their organization, and so on. So, auto companies are entering healthcare. Distilleries are entering healthcare. Everybody and their brother is entering healthcare, right? So, the barriers to entry that we've had are increasingly being challenged. So, if you don't, forget about IT agility, it's going to be corporate agility, and the IT has to go along with it.
Right. Well, that leads to kind of a next question about the CIOs and the leaders of IT. Certainly healthcare CIOs and IT leaders are seeing some amazing things. But does the CIO, the way we think of the CIO today, that role have to change, or will it change, be forced to change? It seems like what we've seen over the years, that IT leader maybe has to be different now going forward. Do you see that?
So the positive and the not so positive, okay? Positive, just about every CEO I've talked to compliments their IT. They've been amazed that they've been able to migrate to work from home so quickly, okay? I mean, some of them will say, hey, look, the cloud applications moved quicker than on-premise, but overall, they're very generous to IT, okay? They're amazed that scalability of video traffic and all that has been handled without too many hiccups, right? On the other hand, if you look at the other side is, for the last 10 years, every CEO will tell you, I'm being told to become a technology company. I have to embed technology into my products, I have to become digital, et cetera, et cetera. Not every CEO is saying, I need to become a healthcare company. So I'm seeing at the C level, the CHRO become a little more important because human resources and healthcare is such a big part of that. I'm also seeing medical professionals start to become more important, right? So it doesn't mean the CIO won't be important, but the CIO will have to make some space for a healthcare-centric executive. But I think most CIOs I've talked to, I'm very impressed with during this phase. They've done their own acrobatics. So, and most CEOs are recognizing them in this phase.
Yeah. I mean, each day there's a new story. If you read the CIO Journal or any of the major publications, ASUG, we've got a lot of profiles of amazing things happening. Getting back to the tech vendors.
I've talked to a few of your members. I talked to Terry Gamble at Not Pizza.
Yeah.
And you look at some of we talk about supply chains, and you typically think of China and Asian bottlenecks. I mean, she was telling me about the food network bottlenecks, right? I mean, every supply chain has been disrupted. So, CIOs have to react to that. They have to react not just to, you're hearing a lot about work from home, but there's a lot of other adjustments they're having to make to be able to, support last mile logistics, to support distance learning, to support, every industry is becoming digital overnight, and the CIO is playing a critical role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly a time for them to step up. Given everything going on, especially in hard-hit industries, it'd be easy for a lot of CIOs to just say, hey, we got to put all of our, innovative projects on hold. We just got to get through the next, 6 to 8 months. And then you hear others where people are just like, now is the time for us to really step on the accelerator of innovation and try new things. And because, there's not going to be another time where it's going to be this open to these ideas and changing things. So, what's your view on CIOs and how their mindset should be going forward?
So a VC told me, he says, Vinnie, the funds that raise money this year or next year will probably the best paying funds this decade. He made that bold prediction because he just sees so many opportunities coming up out of this crisis. So if I'm a CIO and I don't see that, I'm missing a big opportunity. Okay. Having said that, this is a time because we're entering a recession. Procurement people love salivate, right? So they look at third-party maintenance, they look at consolidation. So there's going to be some tension between the innovation side of the house and the cost management side of the house, no question. But being an innovation fan, I would say don't miss this opportunity. Just you're doing your company a disservice if you're not looking at all the acrobatics and reacting to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanting back, something else I've seen lately, vendor audits now coming in. You hear about some of them. And again, vendors own the IP. They are free to audit. It's part of the process. Now just seems like kind of a tough look to be doing audits now. But they're happening.
All I can tell them is don't do what Leo did in 2009, right? Don't increase maintenance. Don't be aggressive about audits. The way you treat your customers and your employees in this phase will be remembered for a long, long time. Naturally the temptation is, well, we've got to meet Wall Street goals. Honestly, Wall Street is not expecting anybody to meet their goals, right? So if you use this opportunity to piss off your customers, it probably hurts you more than helps you. But, people do what they have to do. I just hope they think long and hard before they, become aggressive about that in this phase. Yeah,
it's a tough because you feel for some of the vendors, but it's also not a great look. One of the last couple of questions was, and I think it's something you mentioned about the VCs and the money, and you could see certainly a lot of cash-rich vendors swallowing up little SaaS companies. We're already starting to see that. For the CIOs and the IT leaders on this call, one day you're like, I got my trusted third-party vendor, this guy working for, and all of a sudden they're owned by, Oracle or Salesforce or SAP or something like that. Is there any way to prepare for that? Like, is there a way to prepare for that? Or is that just, you got to roll?
I think ASUG has done a good job. I mean, you've done a good job making integration of SAP portfolio a high priority, right? And you've heard that a couple of times today. Several people have mentioned that. And I think it's high on Kristen's priority list. As a group, as a user group, customers have to push their vendors. The M&A usually has helped Wall Street more than customers. Customers end up with a mess of, portfolios that don't talk to each other. So this is where you should be pushing every vendor to rationalize, not take 5, 6, 7 years to rationalize what they acquire. You have a lot more say than customers realize. But I think in SAP case, ASUG has done a good job making, God, it's been so long, and you still, success factors, Ariba, and so on. I mean, we run out of excuses. Why aren't they talking to each other, right? So similar pressure needs to be brought on any vendor as they make acquisitions.
Yeah.
Homogenize,
last question for you. And did you get a chance to watch Christian's remarks earlier?
I did some, yes.
Yeah, I think, one interesting thing that he talked about was that kind of focus on customers. And I thought that was interesting. It's been something he's been talking about since he was named co-CEO back in the fall. How can he put if you could tell Christian how he could put that into action to positively impact customers around the world, SAP customers, how would that manifest itself? What would that look like for SAP to really be living that customer first mantra that we've been hearing about?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things is verticalization, integration that we talked about, right? A lot more focus on product versus sales going forward. In a way, that's good that we move to a single model based in Waldorf. Product can get a lot more focus. I hope so. So integration would be one. To me, verticalization is something SAP has neglected for a while. I mean, they have all these industries, but they really haven't delivered much to many of those industries in terms of last 10 years of changes. Now they're getting another chance. With all these acrobatics, new feature requests are bound to come to SAP. If you neglect that, they're missing another opportunity. So I think product-centric, listening to customers, probably de-emphasizing integrators, at least the traditional labor-based model. Those are, some ways I'd like to see SAP pivot. And, will they do it? To be seen. But the fact that they've moved to a single CEO model in that sense gives them the opportunity to focus on that a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some huge opportunities there. Well, as we wrap up, I want to say thanks for joining us. I hope to see you in person next year, Vinnie, in Orlando.
And you can come over to my canal. Everyone's welcome to come over to Tampa, which is only about 90-minute drive away. We'd love to have you here.
We can have the ASUG party at Vinnie Mirchandani house.
And, I just want to plug my county. It has been one of the safest in terms of fatalities so far. So you hear a lot about Florida morons and Florida man and so on. People forget we have a very dense elderly population, and I think we've done a pretty good job of watching over them. So just a little pat on the back to my little part of the world.
Yes, well, you stay safe. Great speaking with you. I'm going to encourage everyone. I'm going to flip this slide here. Hold on, you stay on. Let's see if I can get the next slide up here. I'm going to push the audience. Hopefully we can see that. That's coming up next. So I want everyone who's watching here, the Deloitte Chief Global Economist, Dr. Ira Kalish, will review the economic impact and provide insights on that. So after we get done here, click the general session room in the rooms and resources, and you'll get back to that next presentation for the day. Vinnie, we'll see you there. Take care, and we'll see you back hopefully at, I think we're going to join about 3:15 Eastern in the analyst room and see if we can stir up some trouble.
Thank you for having me again, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay, thanks, Vinnie. Take care, and take care of everyone else.
Yep, bye.